In Fairfield County, the biggest mistake I see is buyers shopping for the beautiful house first and the hidden ownership cost second. The wrong type of home can quickly turn into a nightmare of surprise insurance premiums or water issues the moment you close. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what to look for so you can fall in love with the home without falling into a money pit. I'm Jennifer Lockwood, and I work with buyers and sellers across Fairfield County. A big part of what I do is help my clients understand not just the house they're walking through today, but how that home actually lives day to day and what it truly costs to own over time. There's a link below to schedule a quick call with me. My phone number is on the screen. Feel free to call or text me. Today, we're going to walk through 5 specific scenarios that I see come up again and again in our local market. So let's start with the one that can impact your monthly payment from the very first day of ownership, and that's flood zone. If you're thinking of buying in Fairfield County, this is something I always walk through with my clients before we even start touring homes. It's one of those areas where I see buyers caught off guard, and not because they didn't love the home, but because they didn't fully understand it up front. One of the most important things to understand here is flood exposure. And in this area, flood zones are not just along the shoreline, which is what most people assume. We also see flood mapping come into play near rivers like Saugatuck River, the Norwalk River, and the Mill River. The way we evaluate this risk has changed significantly with the introduction of Risk Rating 2.0. Insurance companies are no longer just glancing at a FEMA map. They are looking at the actual risk of specific properties. This includes your exact distance to the water, the home's elevation, the specific type of risk, whether it's a storm surge or a heavy rainfall, and what it takes to rebuild. This is why 2 homes on the very same street can have wildly different insurance premiums. When I'm showing you properties, I'm researching this data in the background. I'm looking to see if the house sits in a special flood hazard area where lenders will mandate insurance if you're getting a mortgage. And I'm also asking the sellers not just what they pay, if their policy is through the NFIP or a private carrier. And it's important to know that private insurance companies often use their own models, sometimes flagging risks that FEMA maps do not. It's important to remember that flood risk isn't obvious during a walkthrough. You might see a beautifully finished lower level or a high-end mechanical systems, but if they sit just below the recommended elevation, your insurance pricing will reflect that added risk. This doesn't make it a bad house, but it does change the true cost of ownership. This is why the inspection period is your most critical window for due diligence. I always have my clients call the insurance company during the inspection period so they are very aware of what their home insurance is going to cost. Don't base it on what the mortgage lender is telling you. You have to call the insurance company because this is one of the factors that can significantly impact your monthly cost, and it's something you want clarity on before moving forward. So if you're considering a move to this area and you want to get a real sense of what it's like to live here, I put together a free, comprehensive relocation guide, and it's designed to help you navigate our local market with confidence and really understand the nuances here in Fairfield County and what each lifestyle can bring you. Now, even if a home sits in a flood zone, that doesn't mean water isn't a factor. The next material fact that could cost you money I always pay attention to is basement moisture, because this is something I see come up all the time in Fairfield County. One of the things I always explain to buyers is that basements here can behave a little differently than what you might be used to, especially if you're coming from out of state. A lot has to do with our unique geography here in Connecticut. We're basically built on rock. And because of our local geography, it's not just the homes along the shoreline and near the rivers that have to deal with high water tables. We also have a lot of natural granite ledge in our soil. So water can't soak through solid rock. It often travels along the ledge and it can end up right against a home's foundation. This is where I see groundwater pressure come into play many times, sometimes pushing moisture up through the floor or from underneath the house. Now, I know this is where buyers sometimes get a little nervous, but basement moisture is not automatically a deal breaker. In many cases, it's actually very manageable. You just need to understand what you're looking at. So during a showing, I'll point out things like the effervescence, which is that white powdery residue on the foundation walls, or some faint tide lines that show where moisture has been in the past. If a basement is finished, I'll even look at the bottom of some door frames or the baseboards for any signs of swelling, which usually tells the true story behind a fresh coat of paint. What matters most isn't whether water exists, but how the house manages it. I'm looking at the bigger picture. Is there proper grading? Are the gutter extensions moving at least 5 feet away from the house? And most importantly, what kind of basement systems are in place to alleviate these issues? In our area, in a high water table, a sump pump is a standard piece of equipment, or a basement system, which is an excellent system to keep the water out. I tell my clients that many of the best homes in Fairfield County have already solved this. So whether it's a perimeter French drain or a sophisticated internal drainage system, it's not about finding a home that has never seen a drop of moisture. It's about finding the one where there's a clear, thoughtful system in place. And when that system is documented and maintained, a basement can be a perfectly comfortable and functional part of your home. If you don't have the right guidance, this can cost you thousands, and you really have to ask the sellers the right questions. So if you want to avoid that, just call and text me and I'll help you navigate it. Also in the link below, I can provide you a brochure about all of the red flags you should be looking out for when you're looking to purchase a home here in Fairfield County, because New England homes are built very differently than they are around the rest of the country, and you need to be aware of these items before purchasing. Next, we're going on to buried oil tanks. This is a third hidden cost that often comes up in our area. Because many of these Fairfield County homes were built before 1975, underground storage tanks for oil were the standard long before natural gas lines were extended into neighborhoods. In many of our neighborhoods, natural gas still isn't an option, so oil heat is really the only heating option unless you convert to propane. The biggest concern with the older steel tanks is erosion. So over decades, these tanks can develop pinhole leaks that allow oil to seep through the soil. And in Connecticut, the DEP is very clear. If petroleum is released into the ground, it's considered a release to waters of the state. This turns a simple home maintenance task into a serious environmental issue. And once title passes to you, the buyer, that liability becomes yours. If you buy a home with an aging or unverified tank, you could be inheriting a financial event that spreads far beyond your yard. So if you had an oil leak in your yard and that oil extended into the neighbor's yard, you are responsible for mitigating all of it. So when we're out touring homes, I am constantly on the lookout for clues. Sometimes you'll see abandoned copper lines through the foundation wall or a vent pipe in the yard that doesn't seem to lead anywhere. Even if a seller says a tank was decommissioned or filled with sand years ago, we have to be very careful because standards have changed. And today's lenders and buyers want to see a permit and a clean soil test to prove that there was never a leak. Honestly, this is the bane of my existence, is oil tanks, because homeowners fail to keep that paperwork. And the paperwork is just passed on from homeowner to homeowner. Many times it is not filed with the fire department or with the town. So you have to look for that paperwork. It is so important to keep the records and to keep passing them on. So this is why a tank sweep is a non-negotiable part of inspection process for me. I always recommend bringing a specialist who does ground radar to scan the entire property just to make sure that there isn't a forgotten tank hiding under the lawn or under the driveway. If we do the scan and we do find an oil tank, we're going to ask for it to be removed and then have soil tests done. It's all about making sure you're moving forward with a clean slate, and oil tanks are really just one example of what you'll find in these older homes. So number 4 is really looking at the big picture of older homes, because when you're buying a home built in the early 1900s, there are a few other things behind the scenes that are worth understanding. In Fairfield County, we have some incredible older homes with character you just can't replicate. But with that age, there are a few things behind the walls that are worth understanding early on. In homes built before the 1940s, it is not uncommon to see materials and systems that were standard at the time, but they're handled much differently today. The first thing I'm always checking for is the plumbing. In these older homes, it's not uncommon to still find original lead piping or galvanized steel lines. Not only is it a health consideration, but as the pipes age, they do corrode from the outside, leading to poor water pressure and eventually major leaks. So replacing a whole house plumbing stack is a significant investment that you want to know about before you're buying this home. Then there's the electrical. Many of these older homes still have knob and tube wiring or outdated ungrounded systems. Many insurance carriers simply will not write a policy for a home with active knob and tube. I had a client who had the knob and tube in their house when they bought it, and the insurance company made them upgrade it the minute they bought the house. And finally, we have to talk about asbestos. In homes of this age, it was a miracle insulator. You'll often find it wrapped around the pipes in the basement or even in some old tile flooring and siding. While it's generally safe if it's undisturbed, the moment you want to renovate a kitchen or finish the basement, you're looking at specialized abatement costs. None of these things mean you shouldn't buy the beautiful historic home. It just means you need to go in with your eyes wide open so that your charmer doesn't turn into a checklist of hidden expenses. So those are some of the behind the scene things to understand with older homes, but it's not just what's inside the walls. The final topic is the roof. While many buyers view a roof as a future home improvement project, insurance companies look at it very differently. In Fairfield County, we see a mix of traditional asphalt shingles and beautiful wood shake roofs. And it's important to know that insurance carriers view these very differently. Wood roofs often carry a much higher premium due to the fire risk and the maintenance requirements, and some carriers may even decline coverage altogether if the wood roof is nearing the end of its life. When we are touring a home, the roof is one of the primary focal points because I want to help you determine how many years you have left before you have to make a $20,000 to $60,000 expense hitting your budget. And it's not just looking for missing shingles, I'm looking for the true age of this roof. One of the most common things I hear is if you ask a seller how old the roof is, well, we think it's about 15 years old, but without an invoice or a permit, that's just a guess that an insurance company might not accept. They often depend on the advice of the inspectors. Carriers are becoming more stricter, often requiring a full replacement or a professional certification of a roof if it's over a certain age, regardless of how it looks from the driveway. I recently had a client that bought an older home, and the minute he moved in, the insurance carrier said they had 30 days to replace their roof. So that was something they were not expecting. It was an extra $30,000 they were not planning on spending. So you just have to be aware when it comes to the age of a roof. So at the end of the day, all of these details are exactly why having a local expert matters. In a market as competitive as Fairfield County, it's easy to get swept up in the beautiful staging or the perfect kitchen and overlook the structural and environmental realities that actually dictate your long-term cost of ownership. My job isn't just to find you a house, it's to make sure you aren't inheriting a liability. I'm Jennifer Lockwood, and I help buyers and sellers across Fairfield County make smart decisions based on real cost, real risks, and what daily life actually looks like here. You tell me your price point and the lifestyle you're trying to build, I will tell you what buyers are doing in that exact pocket right now and how to buy confidently without inheriting expensive surprises. You can reach out to me anytime. I will be the one that answers your call. I'm here to make sure your move to Fairfield County is the best decision you've ever made. I hope you found this information helpful, and I thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.